So what's up, internet? What's up, guys? I'm back here with another video. This time we are going to be making an inventory system. This inventory system is extremely versatile. You could use it from a 2D platformer all the way to your 3D MMO RPG. Just the fundamentals of it are, there. It's the bones. It's very useful. But before we start, please drop a like on this video. It really helps with the algorithm. Subscribe if you want to see more tutorials like this. And if you have any disagreements or agreements with me, feel free to leave them in the comments, or even just say like, hey, dude, it's sunny outside. Something in the comments, I'll respond to you. I enjoy it. I enjoy conversing with you guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this is basically what we're going to be making is we're building off of that blend space tutorial that I had. And you can find all of this on GitHub. You can go straight to this portion. We're going to be picking up, eggs and fish and whatever. We have an inventory system here. We can close the bag, open the bag, whatever. We can equip the egg. Now we hold it in our hand. We can switch it with a fish. It replaces itself. It's basically a full inventory system, what you would want in a game. And, you can always build on it, but it is a very good fundamental. Just make sure, if you go to my GitHub, you can get it. The only thing you're not able to get is this, Cinti Studios thing. They don't like to share that, but I will provide another city that's free, a link to that in the asset store. So let's get building. The first step will be to create items. So we're going to use scriptable objects to create items. Okay, so we are here. We are in this new project. If you get this from GitHub, this is the item system branch. We have our eggs. This is an egg that I made with an egg sprite. We have a fish that I made with a fish sprite and an ice cream that I made. Very, very ice creamy. These are just the models with the sprites. I have prefabs here that just connect to the objects but don't really have any components on them. And that's basically our starting point. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to create scriptable objects to hold all the data for our items. If you don't know what a scriptable object is, it's kind of like, it literally is, it's just a container for data that you'd want to be able to access through your monobehavior scripts. So first things first, let's go to our scripts folder. We'll create a inventory folder. And here we will add another folder here. We'll call this items. In this items, we'll create a C# script. We'll call it item SO for item scriptable object. And we can also actually create another C# script that will be our item. So let's just create one called item. Let's open up item scriptable object, or item SO. And after we wait, okay, here we go. So all we want to do is we want to change this from a monobehavior into a scriptable object as it loads. All right, we don't need any of this nonsense here because we're just going to be holding our data. We can get rid of some of this. And what we want is a public string name. That's going to be our name of our item. Public string description. Let's say we wanted a description for our item. We get a public sprite. Call it sprite. That's going to be our image. And then a public game object. And we'll call that prefab. And that's going to be our item prefab. And this is basically our scriptable object. But when it comes to scriptable objects, they're kind of useless if you can't create them. So what we're going to do is create the asset menu. So create asset menu. And we put in menu name. And that's going to be called, we'll call it item. So here we go. We have that. Is this a little small for you? Let's zoom in. I'm used to it being big, or I'm used to it being small, but that's a little bigger for you. We're going to create that asset menu. And what that does, and as you can see, my sound was broken last time. I did the entire tutorial and had no mic. But what that create asset menu does here is it lets us go here and create. And now we have this item tab. So you see how we called it item? We have the item tab. So now let's create another folder here. I love folders. We'll call this scriptable objects. And in here, we will do item, and we'll call this one, egg. We have all these. We can go to the prefabs and see what we have. We have egg. We can duplicate that. We have fish, and we have ice cream. All right. And now let's just fill in the data. So the name is egg. The description is round yolk. I don't know. And then in the art, we have the sprite. And in the prefab here, we're going to grab this prefab from here and put egg. And it's that easy. All right, now we go to fish. Same thing. Let's do it. Fill it out. Fish, slippery. Yes, because that's what fish do. They slippery. Okay. Okay, and now we go here. We add our fish sprite from here, and we add our fish prefab. And now for ice cream, let's do the same. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. We can just go through here fast. Colder than M&M in December. Something like that. That's some cold ice cream. Ice cold. All right. And we put the sprite, and we put the prefab. And actually, that is the basis for our items in our whole system for the inventory. Now, that's the scriptable object side. We're going to want to add some kind of mono behavior to these prefabs in order to let them be known as items. So let's go here. Let's go to our item, and let's create a little mono behavior. And in here, let's say we want a serialized field. We want our private item SO. So we want a reference to our scriptable object. And then we also want to be able to pick it up, let's say, when we pass through a trigger or a collider. So we're going to do an on-trigger enter. And we will basically, in the on-trigger enter is when player collides, we want to try to add to inventory if there's space, right? But that's basically it. And can I spell? Yes. Okay. All right. So that's basically that. And that's basically the item system. So let's just add these to our prefab, and we will move on with the next part. So here we go. We have our eggs. Just highlight them all. Type in item. Let's add our items here. Make sure we add the scriptable objects that we want. So egg will be egg. Fish will be fish. And ice cream will, of course, be the dream ice cream here. And all of these will also need little box colliders that are triggers, so we can collide with them. And that is basically setting up our items. If we wanted to, we could show here. Let's do a debug.log on trigger enter. We'll say picked up, and then we could say mitem.name, and we will show you that if I save this, it won't save. There we go. If I save this, we put our little fish friend on the floor here, and we run into him. Here we go. All right, we get we get doubled up because we're running through it multiple times, but we're picking up our fish. That's exactly what we want. And let's move on to actually building an inventory. So now we're here. If we go, let's create another script here, C# script called inventory. We're going to add this to our guy. Basically what it's going to do is keep track of everything, all the items on our guy, give us a cap of how many items we can have. So first, let's actually set that cap. So let's do a serialized field, private int. We'll call this num slots or whatever. Let's also get a public reference to this. So basically just public int num slots, where we can just do a getter and just get that. And what we want to do is actually also have an array of items that we have. So let's do a public item SO array of our items. And we can do that as a get private set. And so basically we're tracking all our items. And now as on awake, we can just basically instantiate our items. Let's say our items length will be exactly that. So our items length will be an array of item SO with the number of slots that we have here. I'm going to default our number of slots to let's say 16. Keep it like World of Warcraft or something. And we should have the slots now. So now what we can do is if we go to our item here, we have a way to pick it up, right? So we have the inventory script. So if when the player collides, right? That's what we're looking for. So we're going to get our inventory, and we'll say if other.getComponent inventory. So if it's our player, right? And if that's not null, so if inventory is not equal to null, that means we found our player. Now let's try to add it. So let's say inventory dot try add item, and we'll put our item. There we go. It should be like that. The reason I'm doing try add is because we can do a bool success here. And basically, if it's not full, we add it. If it is full, then we don't add it, right? So let's go here. Let's make a function in our inventory. We can go public bool try add item. We're going to take in an item SO. And so basically if we have a full inventory, we can't pick anything up, right? So let's create a little getter here. Public bool inventory full. And that will be, a get here. We're going to do a get, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to loop through what we have. So for int I equals 0, I is less than items dot length I plus plus. So we're going to see it through all our items. If we have an item, if items dot I is equal to null. So if we have a null spot, then obviously our inventory is not full, right? But if we get through all of this and none of them are null, then our inventory is full. We can't do anything, right? So here, if we try to add item, and if our inventory is full, then we have to just return false. We can't add the item. Otherwise, we can add the item, right? So what we can do is find the first available spot in our inventory. So we say for int I equals 0, I is less than items.length, and basically, if items I is equal to null, then we will take, did I spell items wrong? Basically, we're going to take this item, we're going to take our item that we put here, and that becomes that new item. We're going to break out of this, and we will return true because we were able to add an item. So I know it's very roundabout, but that allows us to check to see if our inventory is full. If our inventory is full, we won't do anything. If it isn't full, then we will add the item. So now that we have this success, we can try add item. Basically, if we were successful in adding that item, then what we want to do is we want to destroy a game object that's just floating around. Otherwise, we want to leave it there, right? Pretty straightforward. So we can see how this looks in the game. If we go here and we run into our fish, oh, and we can't forget the most important part, adding our inventory to our guy. We have a number of slots of 16. Let's see if we have a number of slots of 16, what happens when we run into our fish. Okay, so here we go. We run into our fish. Okay, he's gone. And actually, if we go into debug mode, you can see we have our fish here. Now, let me show you what happens, though, if we were to make our number of slots 0. So that would technically mean our inventory is full, right? Let us see. So number of slots 0, the fish won't disappear. So that's kind of why we do that check. We're just making sure, that our inventory is not full, ready to go, and we have an item added. But it's all cool to have it added. Now we got to kind of get it reflecting onto something other than, a debug screen. So let's take a second and move on to the UI. All right, and so for this UI, it's actually really, really simple. We're going to create a canvas, UI canvas. We will create a panel. I like to make a couple panels just to keep everything good. So we'll say this is the main panel. This is going to hold, all our UI in the future, but especially right now, it's going to hold this one. It'll look like this. Just remove all these components off of it. It's just there to be there as like a container. We will do another panel here. Let's call this next panel. We'll call this inventory UI, which is going to be kind of the whole inventory UI. We can delete that. And now we will make a inventory panel, which is going to be the specific panel of our bag, right? If our bag was open, that would be that. So let's do inventory panel, and let's, stretch it out, put it on this. I'm gonna anchor it to the right, so I push Alt and Shift, click on this right one here, and let's just make it, you know, smaller. I don't know how small. Let's say like like 1,000. That's pretty small. And then height down there. I'm using 4K, by the way. Your values might be different. Minus 100, plus 100, and there's that. Looks good. Now we just need to make sure we change the color. I like that Spider-Man is blue, so let's do Spider-Man blue and make it a little lighter. All right, there we go. We got our Spider-Man blue. All right, so that's our inventory panel. And so what we want to do is be able to line it up with, you know, a bunch of little slots that we can fill up with items, right? So what we can do for that is, you know, we kind of want a grid. So there's a thing called grid layout group. We can just put a grid layout group here. We set it up however we want. The way I like to set it up is I like to have a fixed column count, which is going to give us, you know, 4 columns. So let me just show you, for example. So we have UI. Let's do a button. Import what we need to import. That's cool. And as you can see, we have our little button here. And if we were to just, you know, do flexible like it was originally, and we just duplicate, we get all these crazy buttons here. But as soon as you change it to fixed column count, now you have 2. I like to do 4. And I think this is a little small. So these cell size is the size of each of these boxes. Let's say like 175, 175. And let's give some space between them, so like 100, 100. And it looks a little weird, huh? We need some padding on top. Say padding of 100. And let's put the child alignment in the upper center. So here we see it's a little bit close to the edges, huh? So let's put a left padding of 50, right padding of 50. It's not really doing much. So what I think we need to do is make the cell size a little bit smaller or the spacing a little smaller. Let's do the spacing 50-50. There we go. That looks good. We can delete most of these buttons. We only need one right now. And the one that we're going to do, this is basically going to be our, you know, our inventory panel. So let's delete the text and replace that text with an image. And so what that image will hold, just for example, is like, let's put our fish there. You see our fish is now in here in our inventory, and let's change the button color. So if you go to button, instead of changing the image color here on the button, we can change the button colors. I like red for Spider-Man, so let's do red. Let's make it a little brighter. All right, there's that. Highlighted color, let's make it a little more red. Press color, a little darker. Selected color, who knows, you know. Disabled color, no, that's not, it's paraplegic or something, I don't know. All right, let's go with that. There we go. So we have our button. We'll call this button item, right? And so now we can basically create this as a prefab and then spawn it as many times as we need, so we can change the amount of slots we have. So let's go to prefabs and create a folder, call UI. Let's put our button item in there. And we have it. Okay. So now we can delete that out of here. And basically, we want to create another script called inventory UI that will reflect all of our issues here. So let's go to inventory, create a folder, call it UI. I'm a folder man, I know. Let's create a C# script and call it inventory UI. Here we go. Easy. In our inventory UI, what we're going to want to do is we are going to want a reference to our actual inventory, right? And so there's one way we could do this, and I'm not always a fan of this, but right now, since we're only going to have one inventory, and in a lot of games, you're only going to have one inventory, single-player games, you have one inventory, you can make the inventory into a singleton, you know, and that's, since there's only one instance of it at all times, it's a smart way to get access to it. So let's do a public static inventory instance, and then the instance equals this in awake. What that's going to do is make us able to access this as if it was a static property. And what I like to do here is, because I want this to be, you know, accessible early, and I want to be able to change things in awake on the other functions, then let's do default execution order, and let's set it to like -99, so we can ensure that this script will be executed before the other script. All right, so technically, and then you could make this -98 if you really wanted to, but you don't have to do that. All right, so let's get a reference to our inventory. So let's say inventory, and we'll call it inventory. And so in awake or start, I would say awake, we can say m inventory is equal to inventory.instance. Since we did the default execution order, it should be fine to, come to us, right? In our inventory, we need a reference to our prefab that we just created, right? So our button prefab. So m button prefab. We also need the parent of where that's going to go, right? Which is the inventory panel. So let's do private transform m inventory panel. There we go. And so now, basically what we want to do is we want to see how many slots we have, which is why we have access to our inventory, and we want to spawn that many buttons into that panel, right? So let's say for int I equals 0. Oh, what is that? Int I equals 0. I is less than m inventory num slots. We're going to do I++. And so basically we want to instantiate the amount of buttons into it. But we actually also want to capture these buttons into their own list too. So what we're going to need is a private button array of, item buttons. There we go. And there we go. Okay. And so as we go through, so we'll do a game. We'll say button is equal to instantiate. And we're going to want to instantiate our button prefab, which is what we have, which we made, and our inventory panel. Inventory panel is the parent. So it's going to show up in that grid layout group, right? Now it's giving us an error because this is releasing a game object. So easy fix is all we have to do is get component. Since we know this has a button component, we can just get component button from it. And now we have access to our button. All right, that's that. So we have our button. The image of the fish is still there, right? So we want to make sure the image is turned off. So let's get a reference to our image, which is button.getComponent in children, right? Because the image is actually a child. So getComponent in children image, right? Now, would this work? It might, but the button itself has an image on it. And so the way getComponent in children works is that it gets the parent first, and then it goes down into the children, and it finds basically the first image that it finds from the parent down. So if you look at the button has an image. So it's going to give us this button. So what we would actually have to do is do getComponents in children, and then that will give us all the images, and we say, okay, this is image 0, right? And this is image 1. So we just go here and we put a 1. Oh, not there. Right after. There. That will give us the image that we want. Another thing about getComponents in children that's just a good practice is there is something that it won't get an item or a component if the game object is disabled. And so a lot of times, unless I specifically don't want it to get it when it's disabled, you just put true in here. And what that does is that includes the inactive objects as well. So that just saves you in the long run. So now we have our button, we have our image. Let's add our button to our m item buttons. So m item buttons I is equal to button. And actually, we haven't even initialized this, so let's initialize this as well. So m item buttons is equal to a new button array. And we want it for this number of slots, right? And so now we have the same number of slots. It's reflected over here. We add our button to that. Let's make our button not interactable because there's nothing on it yet. And let's hide our image, right? So let's say image.gameObject.setActiveFalse because right now this is just an empty slot. And that should give us our inventory loaded up with a bunch of empty slots, 16 empty slots if that's the size of our thing. And let's try it out. So what we need to do is come over here. Let's add our inventory UI script to here. Fill out what we need. So we have our button prefab. There's that. And our inventory panel right here, which has the grid layout group. And so now when we push play, does it work? It should. There we go. We have our little buttons here disabled, ready to go. Looks like the disabled color I picked was a weird one. So what we could do is we can we could always go back and change the disabled color. Let's make it a little more red. There we go. All right. But that's basically it. That works. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on picking up items and reflecting that through the UI. The way we're going to do that is through events. All right. So now we have our items picked up. We have everything ready to go, but we need to kind of let the UI know that we've picked up the item so it can update. So what we can do is we can create an event in our inventory when we pick up the item that says, hey, we picked up the item. So what we can do here is we'll go public action, and then here we put what parameters we want. So we put our item SO. We'll also put an int for our index, and we'll say on item pickup. Easy. That's it. And then when we pick up successfully, so when it's try add item and it's true, all we do is we on item pickup, we check if it's null with this question mark, which is the same thing as saying if on item pickup is not equal to null. We invoke it, and then we add our arguments. So item and index, and there. And so now anything that gets subscribed to this will let us know it's picked up, which is perfect because we need to subscribe to this with our inventory UI. So let's go to our inventory UI. Let's go to on enable, private void on enable, and we are going to subscribe to this event. So m inventory dot on item pickup plus equals, and we'll call it the same thing, on item pickup. And whenever you do subscribe to an event, it's always good to unsubscribe to an event just to make sure that there's no errors or anything that happen later when maybe something gets destroyed or disabled. So we have that. Just minus equals turns it into an unsubscribed. Now we will do on item pickup. Alt enter will allow you to go through fast, generate this method. We'll call this item SO. We'll say item, and we'll say index. Okay. And so basically what we want to do on item pickup is we want to change this button from being, we want to change the button at this index, right? The index that we picked up, from being nothing to being the picture of our item, as well as a button that will let us equip it, right? So first, let's get the button. So button is equal to m button, not button prefab. We want the button item buttons at this index. So that's why we pass the index through, so it's easy, right? Our image will be the same thing. So let's do image, and actually it's the exact same thing here. We can just copy paste that. So our image will be the image, and what we want to do is we want to change the image sprite. So image sprite will equal to our item.sprite, and our image will obviously, we have to set it active again, right? So set active equals true. Our button will become interactable equals true, and then we're actually also going to need to add a listener. But before we add a listener, if we have any listeners on top of it, it's going to make it weird. So what I like to do before is button on click. We're going to remove all the listeners, and then we'll just add the one that we want, which is going to be, equip the item. So when you add a listener, you can do this. There's many ways to do it. You could do a delegate and then do the function like that. But the way that I like to do it sometimes, if it's really easy, is just, put another parentheses. This is called a lambda function. You put a equal sign and a caret, and then you type in what you want, which is going to be our inventory, and we're going to say, equip, right? In the equip, we're probably going to pass the item and the index. Why not? And so that's going to be that. It's going to create, it's going to add this item to our inventory, and it's going to equip it. So let's just check this out. We'll comment this out for now. We're just going to see if when we pick up our item, it's going to show up in our inventory. That's the right way to go. So let's try that out. Slow. Here we go. Let's add our egg up here. Let's add our ice cream over here. And let's see, did I save? Saved it. Okay, it should be good. Let us make sure. Okay, everything should be good. Let's try to see. So as we go and run around, we pick it up. Okay, we got our fish, we got our ice cream, and we got our egg. So we're good to go. If we were able to pick them up now we're ready to go. In the next part, let's do equipping. Okay, so we're here. We are ready to equip items. So let's uncomment out this equip and let's actually create the function for it in our inventory. So if we think about it, we need to do a public void equip, and let's take in our item SO item, and let's take in our index just to make sure we have everything we need. Okay, so we obviously want to see if our item, we don't need this because we have a list of all of our items, right? This would already be in our inventory if we're going to equip it, so we just need our index. So let's go here, let's get rid of this, and let's just get our index. What we're going to want to do is check, okay, is the item in our index? So if item's index is equal to null, we don't have the item, so we shouldn't even be able to equip it. It should just be returned, right? Also, we need to check if we have an item equipped or not. So let's create another variable. We'll call this private item SO equipped item. And we also need to see if we have a visual, right? So let's say game object equipped item visual. Okay, and we also actually need to see where are we going to equip it to, right? So when we equip it, where is it going to spawn? So let's get a serialized field of our transform. So let's do a transform of like a hand point, right? So let's call this hand point. Okay, and for some reason because it's serialized and not serialized. Okay, there we go. So there we go. We have all these variables that we need. So first things first, let's check to see if we have an equipped item. So if equipped item is not equal to null, then what we want to do is we want to basically duplicate what we want to swap the spots of our items, right? So let's create an item SO, and this is the item that we are equipping. So let's say item equipping is going to be at items index, right? So now we're caching that. Now the item that we're unequipping is going to go back to that item as that index, right? So items index is actually going to become equipped item, right? So we're swapping them out. Now our equipped item will be the equipping, right? So if you can see that, it's a little bit of logic, but we're copying it over. We're getting our new item. We're taking our old item and replacing it there. And then we are putting our new item in the spot. Now that's good, but we're actually going to still have the visual of the other one there. So what we want to do is destroy the visual of the current item that we have equipped. So let's say equipped item visual. We'll just destroy that game object. That's good. So this is if we already have an item equipped. But if we don't, and this is the first time we're equipping an item, it's a lot easier, right? We're just going to say equipped item is equal to items.index, and items.index, or whatever items index, is equal to null, because there's nothing to replace it with, right? So we're just going down to nothing. That's good. And what we want to do now is basically spawn our equipped item spawn our new equipped item in the correct spot. So let's say equipped item visual is equal to instantiate equipped item prefab, and we want to put it at our hand point, right? So that's the parent. We want to make sure that it's at 0, 0, 0. So let's do the transform dot local position. Oh, we want the visual, my bad. Equipped item visual, transform dot local position is equal to vector 3.0. Let's make sure it's zeroed out on rotation as well. So local rotation is equal to quaternion dot identity. There we go. And so now we have it there. And yeah, so we have basically equipped it, but we haven't told the UI what to do yet, right? So again, we're going to create another event. Let's create another event. We're actually going to take in another item SO. So basically, we're going to have our item that we're equipping, our item that was equipped, or if it's nothing, then nothing, and then our index. So let's do on item equip. Okay, and let's just make sure that at the end of this, we call the on item equip, and we say invoke, and make sure you put the question mark there, because that checks if it's, what is it called? Null or not? Yeah. All right, and so we're going to put in our equipped item, which is our new item. We're going to say items at index, which will either be our old item, which was equipped, or null, and then we'll put index as our index. So there we go. So we have our equipped item, items index, and index. And so now let's go back to our inventory UI and let's subscribe to those events. So let's go here, and it's called on equip item equip. Just copy paste all that stuff here, get it all good, and let's create the method. Oh, let's create the method here. So Alt Enter, generate method, perfect. And so item arg1 will be new equipped. This is old equipped. And this is index, right? So basically we want to check, okay. If old equipped is not equal to null, right? Then what we want to do is put that old equipped in the index of the new equipped, right? So we're going to say our button, well, we can even get our button up here. So our button is the same thing. It's the item button's index, which is why we have our index. Our image is going to be the same thing here. So we have all that. Now, if we have an old equipped, we're going to say that the sprite will be our old equipped sprite, right? We're going to say our button, our image is active. It's a lot of the same stuff. We probably could turn this into a function. And we're going to do all of this, right? So that's all the same thing. If it isn't null, there's that. If it is null, then what we do is button interactable equals false. Basically, our image game object, let's just set it active to false. And that's that. So we've switched it out. We've gotten it done. And that's really it. I think this should work. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. There is one thing that's different that won't work. I'm gonna pause it and I'm gonna tell you it's very abstract. I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to fix it, and then we're gonna fix it ourselves. All right. So pause, try to fix it. If not, here's the answer. All right. So what we have is we have these items getting picked up, right? And when they get picked up, basically we have the on trigger saying, hey, we are an item and we are getting picked up. But as you pick them up, you're spawning the new item into the hand. So the trigger is going to keep getting, triggered, right? So what we want to do is we want to make a bool on this item that says, oh, it is equipped, right? Because if it is equipped, then we can just say, we can just not do this, right? So if the item is equipped, let's just return. And that way we don't face any of this on trigger enter if we have the equipped item. On item equipped, the old item, we would say, basically it's getting deleted, but on item equip, as soon as we equip the item, which is right here, we just say equiped item visual. All right, and then, sorry, a lot of interruptions here. All right, and then we just get our equipped item visual. We got a get component of our item, and we say is equipped is equal to true. And now we have it all. Everything should be good. And watch and learn as we have our perfect rudimentary basis for any inventory system that you would like to use within Unity. And this is always able to be grown. Don't think that this is the end all be all. We pick up all our items and we can equip it. Where's our fish? Oh, it's always the same thing. We have to equip, but let's say player, we need our hand point, right? Luckily, I've added a hand point for you guys. I call it grab point. This will be where we spawn all of these little fishes and ice cream cones and all that. But basically, we're going here. We have this full equipment thing going on. You push play too many times and it all breaks. Here we go. Okay, we have, for some reason, it's reloading domain. Okay, there we go. So let's pick up what we want, pick up everything. All right, and now we equip our fish. Okay, we equip our ice cream. It switches. Now we can keep going back and forth and equipping everything. That is the basics to an inventory system. And really, you can only go up from there. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot. I know it seems a little bit, long-winded, but what it is it's a good setup for any kind of inventory system you want, for any kind of complicated game. It's really a good groundwork. You know, it's no Brackeys 5-minute tutorial, but what it does, I feel like hopefully does explain a lot of the intricacies and how to develop something, a system with events and more complicated concepts. And yeah, so if you like the video, please don't forget to like it. It really helps. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and comment if you hated it. Comment if you loved it. Comment if you don't care. Just give me some comments. Give me some engagement. Check out the Discord. We got people on Discord. They're putting some great stuff out. We got Ink of the Dragon here. Shout out to that guy. He's been working so hard for about a year. He made a little video about what he's working on. It's crazy. So yeah, come join the Discord. Have a good time. Let's develop together. And yeah, thanks.